Hello, welcome to video lecture number 6 on strength of materials. We will just go through the important mechanical properties of different engineering materials. So whenever we select some material, what are the different properties we look for? First one is called strength. It is the ability of the material to withstand load before its failure. How much load it can withstand before its failure. That is called as strength. Stiffness, it is the capacity of the material to resist the deformation. Third one is called hardness. Hardness is a surface property. It is actually the ability of the material to resist the surface indentation or surface penetration or abrasion. This hardness is an important property whenever you discuss about where is the material removal because of rubbing action. Then fourth one is called resilience. If I consider the stress strain diagram, resilience is nothing but the amount of energy absorbed. See, whenever you apply load to a material, if I apply load like this, P, it undergoes deformation, and through the deformation, it absorbs certain amount of energy into it. If the material is loaded within the elastic limit, as soon as you remove the load or unload it, it regains its original shape and size, utilizing the energy. The energy which is absorbed during loading will be released during unloading. And resilience can be measured in the stress strain diagram. It is the area covered by this straight line portion. This area is called modulus of resilience. So ability of the material to absorb energy when deformed elastically and to return it when unloaded. It is expressed by the area under the elastic region of stress strain diagram. That's what I have highlighted here. It is the area of the triangle. So half into base into height, if you do half into base is epsilon, height is sigma. And also E into epsilon is sigma, or epsilon is equal to sigma by E from Hooke's law. So if you substitute that in place of epsilon, if you write sigma by E, it becomes sigma square by 2E. Then toughness. It is similar to resilience, but it is the area under the entire curve of stress strain. The area under this entire curve is the modulus of toughness. So it involves plastic region also. Area under stress strain diagram represents toughness per unit volume, or it is called modulus of toughness. Next, we also have seen ductility. Ductile materials, we know ability of the material to undergo considerable amount of plastic deformation is called ductility. And brittleness, ability of the material to have lesser plastic deformation before failure, that is called brittleness. We also know what is elasticity. It is the ability of the material to regain its original size and shape after the removal of load, that is called elasticity. And plasticity is the ability of the material to deform plastically or undergo permanent deformation, that is the plasticity property. And creep is a different phenomenon. We will not be discussing about creep in strength of materials, but I'll just tell you what is creep. You just imagine a tube which has some paste. You can consider it as a toothpaste. If you open the cap and put some weight here over a period of time, see, weight is constant. I'm applying constant load on the tube. What happens? The paste which is inside, it will slowly come out. That is called creep. So slow and permanent deformation that can occur under constant loading over a period of time is called creep. It is a time dependent property, and also it is temperature dependent. A short piece of steel pipe is to carry an axial compressive load of 1000 kilonewton with a factor of safety of 2 against yielding. If the thickness of the pipe is to be 1/5 of its outside diameter, find the minimum required outside diameter by taking yield stress as 280 megapascal. Let us try to draw a sketch for this. It is a steel hollow pipe. This is DI, this is DO, and it is subjected to axial load like this. Call it as P, 1000 kilonewton. Thickness of the pipe, that is called T, is 1/5 of the outside diameter, means T is equal to DO by 5. It is nothing but 0.2 into D naught. And he says factor of safety should be taken as 2. And yield stress is given 280 megapascal. P is given as 1000 kilonewton. It is nothing but 10 power 6 Newton. See, when you know FOS and sigma y, you can always calculate what is the allowable stress or permissible stress. It is called design stress. So, allowable stress. FOS for ductile material is defined as sigma y by sigma A. This means sigma A is equal to sigma y by FOS. Sigma y is 280 here and 2 is the factor of safety. So it will be 140 megapascal. It means that apply the load to this bar, that stress should not exceed 140 megapascal. It can be equal to 140 megapascal or less than that. That is the meaning of allowable or permissible stress. So in order to have a stress of 140 megapascal in the hot pipe or less than that, I should find out the diameter. This is allowable stress. Now, induced stress. For axial loading, it is simply sigma is equal to P by A. But this induced stress should not be greater than 140. Let us take 140 itself, the limiting value. So I am equating P by A to 140 allowable stress. P is 10 power 6 Newton divided by A. It is a hollow pipe, so area is pi into dO square minus dI square divided by 4. This is equated to 140. Thickness T is 0.2 into D naught. T is actually D naught minus Di by 2. Or I can say D naught minus Di is equal to 2 into D. But T is 0.2 D naught here. So 2 into 0.2 into D naught. Di is equal to 0.6 into D naught. With the given data, we have arrived at an equation for inner diameter Di in terms of outer diameter D naught. Now we can substitute this into this. When I do that, 10 power 6 divided by D naught, I will keep it as it is. Minus, in place of Di square, I will write it as 0.6 square into D naught square. Divided by 4, I will keep it as it is. Right hand side also, I will keep it as it is. Now you observe in this equation, only D naught is unknown. You can solve this. So if you solve this, you should get a diameter of 120 mm. We are trying to find out the allowable stress first, because yield stress and factor of safety is known to us. So what is the maximum stress the bar can be subjected to, that we know. Based on that, we are equating that allowable stress to induced stress, which is P by A. And A has the dimension related to cross section D naught and Di. And without D naught and Di relation, we cannot solve it. So he has given data that thickness is 1/5 of its outside diameter. We are able to substitute that into induced stress equation, and equating it to allowable stress, we are able to find out the outside diameter. This is another hollow steel tube problem. Steel tube is used to carry an axial compressive load of 150 kilonewton. The yield stress for steel is 250 megapascal and factor of safety of 2. Following 3 class of tubes of external diameter 100 mm are available. Suggest suitable section. Light class steel tube has thickness of 3.5 mm. Medium class steel tube has thickness of 4 mm. Heavy class tube has 5 mm. It is a hollow steel tube. It is subjected to axial compressive load, and load is 150 kilonewton. Outside diameter is D naught, inner diameter is Di, and thickness is P. Now we are supposed to find out the value of T that is required for this problem. Observe, yield stress is given as 250 megapascal. Factor of safety is given as 2. P is given as 150 kilonewton, which is 1.5 into 10 power 5 Newton. Internal diameter is given. D naught is 100 mm. So when you know yield stress and factor of safety, you can always calculate what is the allowable stress. Factor of safety is sigma y by sigma allowable. From this, you can calculate what is sigma A. Sigma A is what? Sigma y by FOS. And here, sigma y is 250 and FOS is 2. So it is 125 megapascal. Tube can undergo stress to a maximum stress of 125. Maximum permissible stress in the tube is 125. If you load it beyond that, tube is going to fail. Based on this, we have to find out the dimension of wall thickness. So, induced stress. Induced stress definition is sigma is equal to P by A. Here P is 1.5 into 10 power 5 divided by area. It's a hollow cross section, so pi into 100 square minus di square divided by 4. Now, in order to get the value of dimension required, we have to equate this to allowable stress 125. Now you see in this equation only di is unknown. We can find out what is the di. We'll get di value of 92.04 mm. We have to choose one of the given class, but given class is standardized in terms of thickness. So let us find out what is the thickness corresponding to di of 92.04. Thickness is nothing but d naught minus di by 2. But here d naught is 100, di is 92.04 divided by 2. When you do, you get thickness of 3.98 mm. So, based on the stress induced, based on the allowable stress, or based on the factor of safety, we have arrived at a wall thickness of 3.98 mm. For light class of steel, thickness is only 3.5. But according to our calculation, we are supposed to get a minimum wall thickness of 3.98. So, light class cannot be used. Medium class, when I choose, it is just above 3.98. That is sufficient for me. I can choose. So medium class is what is required. But heavy class also I can choose, because anyway minimum thickness is 3.98. 5 mm is more than that, so that is sufficient. But when you go for unnecessary addition of material, the cost will increase. So I should write medium class steel tube is suggested. In the bracket we can write T is equal to 4 mm. It is a composite bar. See, composite bar, when I say it is made up of more than one material. Whenever a bar is made up of more than one material, but composite bar. Now you see here, there are two portions. Left portion is steel and right portion is brass, and this steel portion has a diameter of 30 mm. Brass portion has a diameter of 20 mm. And steel portion has a length of 800 mm. Brass portion has a length of 600 mm. And it is subjected to a load of 30 kilonewton. So this much is given to you. You are supposed to find out the Young's modulus of brass. Given the Young's modulus of steel, 200 gigapascal. P 30 kilonewton. 30 kilonewton is 3 into 10 power 4 newton. Total extension observed means deformation in the entire bar, or net deformation, is given as 0.74 mm. E steel, or ES you can call it as 200 gigapascal. So it is 2 into 10 power 5 Newton per mm square. We know for constant cross section bar, change in length is PL by AE. But in this problem now, there are two portions. Steel portion is different, brass portion is different cross section. So total deformation here is, I'll call it as DL. It is nothing but DL of steel portion plus DL of brass portion. Total deformation is the sum of the deformation or extension in steel portion and extension or deformation in the brass portion. Total deformation is given in the problem. Net deformation is 0.74. So left hand side you substitute 0.74. Right hand side, this becomes PL by AE of steel, and this becomes PL by AE of brass. P is same for both, 30 kilonewton. Same load will act for steel as well as brass portion. Means if I take reaction here, reaction at the fixed support, here this also will be 30 kilonewton. So steel portion is also subjected to 30 kilonewton. So P is same. So P I will take it outside. 3 into 10 power 4. Inside I will write L by AE for each portion. L for the steel portion is 800 mm. So I will substitute 800 here. Divided by A for the steel portion, pi into 30 is the diameter. So 30 square by 4. This is the area A into Young's modulus of steel, 2 into 10 power 5. This is the L by AE for steel portion plus L by AE for brass portion right now. L for the brass portion is 600 mm divided by area pi into 20 square by 4. This is the area of the brass portion into the Young's modulus of brass portion is not known. Let us call it as EB to get a value of 1.005 into 10 power 5 Newton per mm square. It can be converted into GPa because normally Young's modulus is specified in gigapascal. So it can be written as 100.5 gigapascal. A bar as shown is subjected to a tensile load of 150 kilonewton. If the stress in the middle portion is limited to 160 Newton per mm square, determine the diameter of the middle portion if the total elongation of the bar is to be 0.25 mm. Young's modulus is equal to 200 gigapascal. Call this portion as portion 1, this portion as portion 2, this portion as portion 3. He has given that stress in the middle portion is limited to 160 Newton per mm square. Means allowable stress in the middle portion is 160 Newton per mm square. So sigma A is 160 Newton per mm square for portion 2. So let us use this. So sigma A can be equated to P by A, which means 160 is equal to P. P is 150 into 10 power 3 divided by area. Let us assume the diameter of central portion is D2. So if the diameter is D2, then what happens to area? Area becomes pi into D2 square by 4. Can be solved for D2, you would get a D2 value of 34.55 mm. So diameter of the central portion should be 34.55 mm or more than that to have the stress limited to 160 Newton per mm. Okay, central portion, we know the diameter now. I will call this distance as x. If this distance is x, can you find out what is distance x? Net deformation, the entire bar is limited to 0.25. The total deformation, DL is equal to DL in the first portion plus DL in the second portion plus DL in the third portion. Summation of elongation in portion 1, portion 2, portion 3 will become the net deformation. So 0.25 because total extension is given as 0.25 mm. And right hand side, PL by AE of portion 1 plus PL by AE of portion 2 plus PL by AE of portion 3. P is same for all the three portions, is 150 into 10 power 3. I will take it outside. Inside I will write L by AE for all the three portions. L by AE for portion 1 and 3 are same. So I will write 2 times L is x here divided by area is pi into 100 square by 4 into E. E is same for all the three. So I will write it outside. 200 into 10 power 3. L by A for second portion I should write it as T. This distance now becomes 450 minus 2x. So I should write 450 minus x as the length for second portion divided by area. Area is what? Pi d square by 4. 34.55 by 4. You can find out x. If you calculate, you get a value of 78.069 mm. Or if you want length of the middle portion, is 450 minus 2 into 78.069. When you calculate, you will get 293.86 mm. A steel tie rod of 50 mm diameter and 5 meter length is subjected to a pull of 100 kilonewton. To what length the bar should be bored centrally so that the total extension will increase by 20% under the same pull. The bore being 25 mm diameter. We have to take this problem in 2 cases. First case is the solid steel rod. Solid steel rod of some 5 meter length and outside diameter is 50 mm. Is subjected to a pull of 100 kilonewton. Whatever extension you observe in that solid part, you calculate that. And then you have to bore it from one side. Boring means making a hole at the center along the axis. So boring is done to some length, not for the full length. How much boring is done? Boring is done centrally so that the total extension will increase by 20%. Means in the first case, when the rod was solid before boring, how much deformation you see? Let us say 1 mm deformation is 20% increase means 1.2 total extension should get. So much boring you have to do. Bore diameter is given, 25 mm is the diameter. So we have to find out how much length of boring is required in order to get an increase of 20% extension. First case is solid rod. For the same rod, I will bore. Boring means making a hole from one end. I have bored it here. From right end I am making. You can take it from left end also. So this much portion is removed, let us say. So this is case A, this is case B. Both the rods are subjected to same load. Tie rods are normally subjected to tensile load, 100 kilonewton. And he says initially the rod length is 5 meter and diameter is 50 mm. Here also diameter is 50 mm and total length is 5 meter. 5000 mm means 5 meter. Now our job is to find out length here. I will call it as x and this inner diameter is given. Core diameter is given as 25. Let us find out what is the deformation in case A. In case A, deformation is dl by A, which is 100 into 10 power 3. L is 5000, 5 meter is 5000 mm, divided by area. Area is pi into 50 square by 4 into Young's modulus, which is 200 gigapascal. 200 into 10 power 3 Newton per mm square. And this deformation will be 1.27 mm. See, when the tie rod is of solid cross section before boring, it is undergoing an extension of 1.2732 mm. After boring, the extension should increase by 20%. So in the second case, in case B, total deformation should be equal to 0.2% more than the DL, right? So it is actually 1.2 times DL or 1.2 into 1.27324, which will be equal to 1.528 mm. See, 20% more means it should undergo a net deformation of 1.528 mm. One common mistake students do in this kind of problem is they take DL total as 0.2 times DL. Don't do this mistake. Our job is to find out the x value. Now you can consider the case 2 as two portions. Portion 1 is this, portion 2 is this hollow cross section. Net deformation for case B, DL total is equal to DL of portion 1 plus DL of portion 2. And DL is what? It is PL by AE. PL by AE of portion 1 plus PL by AE of portion 2. And net deformation is already known to you. So this is equal to 1.528 is equal to, here both the portions are made up of same material and subjected to same load. So I can take P by E common outside. P is 100 into 10 power 3 divided by E is 200 gigapascal, which is 200 into 10 power 3. In the bracket I will write L by A of portion 1 plus L by A of portion 2. L for this portion is what? It is 5000 minus x. So 5000 minus x is the L for first portion divided by A. Area is what? It's solid cross section. So pi into 50 square by 4 then. Plus second portion, what is the length? It is x. We have taken it as x divided by area. Area, this is a hollow area now. So it becomes pi into 50 square minus 25 square divided by 4. Now you see, only unknown is x here. You can solve it. X should be approximately 3000 mm. It is nothing but 3 meter. So you should drill a hole of 3 meter from one end centrally in order to increase the deformation by 20%. That's the meaning.